I just want to welcome everyone to another of our Medivolve webinars. I'm Doug Sommerville, CEO of Medivolve. I will introduce our guest a bit later. We have a guest from an exciting new initiative that we'll be talking about called AditxtScore. But prior to doing that, I'm going to ask Aaron Atten from our legal team if he can go ahead and read our disclaimer.
Thanks, Doug. The purpose of this call is to provide investors with an update on Medivolve's business developments with a primary focus on its subsidiary collection sites. The views, information, or opinions expressed by our partners are solely those of the individual presenters and do not necessarily represent the views of Medivolve and/or its directors, officers, or employees. Medivolve is not responsible for and has not, in all cases, verified for accuracy any of the information to be provided by our partners on this call. During this call, Medivolve may make statements that contain forward-looking information within the meaning of applicable Canadian securities legislation. Forward-looking information will include, but is not limited to, statements with respect to the results of collection sites cubes, the proposed rollout of additional testing sites, the pursuit by Medivolve of other opportunities, including vaccines, and the merits or potential returns of any such opportunities. Forward-looking information is subject to known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors that may cause actual results to be materially different from the conclusions, forecasts, or projections expressed or implied by such forward-looking information. Certain material factors and assumptions have been applied in drawing the conclusions or making forecasts or projections reflected in the forward-looking information. A description of the factors that could affect and the assumptions underlying forward-looking information can be found in Medivolve's annual information form, financial statements, and accompanying management discussion and analysis, as well as public disclosure documents that are available for your review under Medivolve's profile on SEDAR. Participants should not place undue reliance on forward-looking information. Medivolve does not undertake to update any forward-looking information except in accordance with applicable securities laws. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that. Again, welcome everyone. Today, we're going to update you in a number of areas. We're going to bring you up to date with our collection sites initiative. We're also going to talk about some new initiatives in testing. We do have a guest from AditxtScore, and I'll introduce him in a little while. We're going to talk about our vaccine rollout program. We're going to update on Neutralizing, Marvel Diagnostics, and Telehealth. Our guest from AditxtScore will then present the AditxtScore testing system, and we will then end with some comments on share price and see whatever questions may be available to us in the Q&A. So with that, I'll go ahead and start with an update on collection sites. As we previously announced, in March, we did 20,576 tests, collection sites tests. We did additional testing through our partner, Besser Brands. I don't have that exact number, but they are operating 8 locations in Florida currently. We're also seeing, the good news is we're also seeing very good stability in our testing demand. April's numbers are very similar to what we've received in March. So we're seeing a fairly stable, consistent demand on the testing side. We're also looking to expand in our testing initiatives. One of them that we'll talk about later is AditxtScore, which is an immunity test that will actually show you how your body is responding to either a previous case of COVID or a vaccine that you've received. We're also doing a lot of work in the B2B area right now, trying to expand in us going to them rather than people coming to collection sites. We did a project with an independent production company out of Los Angeles. We were able to test all of their employees across a number of weeks, a few times a week. We were able to deliver back PCR tests in sub 24 hours so that they could ensure that that was a safe and secure production site. We're also working through with some retail offerings through the McDade & Associate Group to convenience stores and big box retailers. And we're looking at a number of other B2B opportunities where we would actually take testing to the various types of industries and operations that are available. We also have a program that we're launching with HRSA. HRSA is a government-run program that offers free PCR testing to the undocumented and the uninsured, and the ability to get to that audience of individuals that require testing. So we have a lot of initiatives in the testing phase and adding to our already consistent testing that we're doing on PCRs, rapid antigens, and rapid antibodies in our collection sites facilities. Bring you up to speed on our vaccine program. We have actually terminated our moving forward with the Nevada pharmacy. We decided not to pursue that, but we are in discussion and investigation of some opportunities in California. Two reasons. One is it ties in very nicely with our telehealth offerings, but we also access the CalVax license opportunities in California, and we're looking at those opportunities right now. We're still very active in pursuing the opportunities initially in California to really work to get to rural and underserved communities. The suspension of the J&J has been a little bit of a setback, but I think it's a setback we're only going to see for a short period of time. Right now, when you look at the J&J vaccination, they've administered over 7 million of those vaccinations and had 6 cases of potentially related blood clots. I think they're just taking a precautionary step to make sure that they understand that data and understand what has occurred. But to suspend that many vaccinations probably brings much bigger problems. The J&J is a perfectly suited vaccination for people like ourselves, anyone operating in pharmacy, because it is very easy to ship and easy to store compared to the Pfizer and also to some extent the Moderna. And it's also a one-shot vaccination. So it is very good to get out to access underserved and rural communities. So we're continuing to pursue other options around allocation of the Moderna vaccine, but we do believe we will get opportunities on the J&J side after the FDA has gone through its appropriate investigations. We continue to pursue our opportunities to vaccinate through a government contract of underserved populations in the Central Valley in California, and that is proceeding as we speak. To bring you up to speed on Neutrel, we are actually anticipating orders from both retail and some hotel groups in the very near future, and we are pursuing those currently. The Marvel Diagnostics Group, the blowfish technology, they are meeting all of their milestones that they had committed to. There's some very interesting developments in that side. I can't go into detail on those developments, but we're very excited about not only the opportunities with COVID, but some opportunities that are being identified beyond COVID. And they're meeting their milestones for full FDA EUA access to that product in the timeframe that they initially had indicated. So we're very excited about the research they're doing. They are involving a very large, well-known institution that will be publicizing for their clinicals hopefully next week. In terms of telehealth, and this has been an important area that we have looked to try to move towards, we had expected we would have a little more time to pivot with testing demand, but we pivoted early to move into telehealth space. And I call it telehealth, but I think more appropriately, we should call it telediagnostics. Right now, the telehealth marketplace is worth about $61 billion, is the latest forecast of what the market was worth in 2019. But the anticipation is that will grow to $560 billion by 2027. That's about a 25% CAGR through that time period. So it is an extremely attractive growth marketplace. Right now, about 50% of all of the telehealth that is taking place is more what I call teleconsultation. It's consultation around mental health. So about 50% of it is mental health, because that is something that can be done very effectively through a video screen. What we are doing is we are moving into a much more of a telediagnostic type of field. We actually have our first 5 proprietary spec systems that will be delivered to us next week. These systems have a number of peripherals that will allow us not only to do a video consultation with our doctor network, but we also will be adding digital scopes where eyes, ears, throat can all be examined, digital stethoscopes, pulse oximeters, scales, blood pressure cuffs. All of the peripherals that you see when you enter your doctor's office will be available. The nice thing about this as well is not only can the doctor utilize our technicians or our phlebotomists on site to conduct a full investigation or clinical investigation of the patient, they can also order the tests. Our phlebotomists are there to take tests if required. We have our lab partners to process. So we see it as a nicely consolidated program that we're able to offer, not only at our sites, but the other important element to this is that we have spec'd these to be very portable. These same systems can be easily taken into long-term care where we can do patient wellness checks. We can take them to areas that do not see doctors nearly as much as they would like. So that's able to be done. In discussions with Dr. Glenn Copeland, who is on our medical advisory committee, as many of you know, Dr. Copeland is extremely active in the sports medicine field, one of the doctors for the Toronto Blue Jays, as well as the National Umpires Association. When he explains how team doctors work in sports, typically they are available at the time of the games, and there's in their contract they have to take place during that time. But a great number of injuries take place during training. If you then expand beyond pro teams to the number of athletics that take place at the college level, we can see a tremendous demand for remote type of equipment like this and the services offered for college campuses across the US where multiple sports are ongoing at one time, and the ability to have access to a doctor, access to diagnosis and consultation right on spot is something that's certainly just one of a couple of areas that we've identified as extremely attractive for this type of telehealth that we're doing. So with that, I was going to now introduce you to Anthony Voorhees. Anthony is the head of AditxtScore. I'll let Anthony tell you, I won't steal his thunder, I'll let him tell you about the product, but we were extremely excited. We think it fits in very well with our entire collection sites network. And Anthony, I'll turn it over to you to bring everyone up to speed.
Oh, thank you, Doug, and I'm delighted to be here. And also, it's great to have been able to partner with Medivolve and Collection Sites LLC as a channel partner. So excited about the partnership with your company and your great colleagues. So yes, I'm with Additex Therapeutics. I am the head of AditxScore division. Just give you a brief snapshot of Additex. We are a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. We IPO'd end of June last year, and we're comprised of two key divisions. One's the immune reprogramming side, and that's very exciting. Think of that as our therapeutic arm. Pretty exciting therapy called apoptotic DNA immunotherapy, developed and created by some world-class leaders in the science realm, Loma Linda. Dr. Leonard Bailey, many of you may have heard of Dr. Leonard Bailey. He was a partner, co-founder of our company, and he passed away a couple of years ago, but he developed the immunotherapy. And you might recognize him. He did the first heart transplant with a baboon heart for baby Faye. So that's how that started. But we've been in preclinical with the therapeutics and really positive. We're doing our first in-human trials later this year. And this is all about tolerizing certain tissues and cells in a specific region to help the outcomes of organ transplants. And just really excited about that therapeutic and the good that it can do. So that's one side that we're, again, it's applicable to allergies and autoimmune as well. So out of that, we were doing immune monitoring in advance of organ transplant. So that's how that was kind of birthed out of that immune reprogramming side. And that's the division that I head up, is the immune monitoring side. So we're using a platform called AditxScore. And AditxScore is a platform that enables us to look at multiple parameters of the immune system condition. So it's really, the applications are limitless, really. So as COVID came around, we quickly determined that we had a really good platform in place. AditxScore for COVID-19 is our first application. It was first validated at Stanford University, world-class partners. We actually have many of the top immunologists from Stanford now on our team. So it's a pretty cool scenario. But so AditxScore for COVID-19 it consists of multiple analytes specific to SARS-CoV-2. So we're looking at 3 antibody isotypes against 3 SARS-CoV-2 antigens for a total of 9 analytes that we run, all in one single reaction with very high resolution. So we're utilizing a very sensitive platform for this. But with that, we're able to determine very comprehensively what an individual's immunity status is. So have they developed protective immunity, either to exposure of the virus? Have they been exposed? And what type of immune response have they had? Or have they been infected? And then we're able to monitor, first get a baseline look at what that immune response looks like at different time intervals. As I was mentioning to Doug earlier, just with respect to the vaccines, for example, generally it's around the 5-week mark that we recommend measuring the immune response. And this is the humoral immune response. We're also very soon to launch cellular immunity response, which is another category that's very exciting. But the 5-week mark really generally gives us the best timing to allow that individual to develop an immune response. Some can develop that within 2 weeks, a robust response. Others, it takes 9 weeks or more, and I can share actually a report with you that kind of highlights that. But the point is with the vaccines or with COVID, it's really been a lot of subjectivity involved. Nobody really knows, okay, they got the vaccine, does it really work or not? We're able to provide objective data, and it's quantitative testing. So we're able to look at this with high precision and determine based on an individual's immune response if they've developed protective immunity. So just to give you a little bit more context, so we have a office in Silicon Valley. That's our hub of R&D and research and discovery. We have our Immune Monitoring Center, which is a CLIA CAP lab. That's in Richmond, Virginia. I spent a lot of time there, led by 2 of the top Mayo Clinic scientists, laboratorians that we've been able to secure. So that's our Immune Monitoring Center there, where we do all of the processing of AditxtScore. And then also we have a location in New York for capital markets, investor relations, and things like that. Yeah, just to give you a little bit more on the technology, we've been very fortunate to be able to secure a proprietary platform that takes all of this data, and there's really thousands of combination points of comments that can come from even COVID, the different combinations there. So it's able to interpret that data, to distill it down into very actionable, meaningful information. And I'll go ahead and share a report now. So add a little picture to that. So let me just share my screen and I'll pull up a report here. And can you see this okay?
Yeah, I can see it.
Great, okay. Actually, a colleague of mine gave us full permission to use his report. And so I'll just share with you some of the parameters we cover here. So of course it answers a couple of questions. We also offer PCR, but a lot of our partners and channel partners already do PCR. So that's taken care of. We can always add that data to the reporting mechanism, but it answers these key questions for the consumer. Is there evidence of SARS-CoV-2 infection in case we're doing PCR? Yes. Yes or no. And then is there evidence of prior exposure? That's another category. Is there evidence that a robust immune response developed? That's key, because we know if there's a robust immune response, that it is indicative of protective immunity. So again, this is a very comprehensive testing mechanism, and you can see here the different parameters. And so here's the 9 analytes that is all done in one single reaction. So to get these tests elsewhere, you're doing one test at a time, and logistically, it just wouldn't make sense. So we're able to do it using this platform. And what I'll bring your attention to the previous results here. This was done at the 5-week mark for this individual. And he still, with those numbers in those categories, did not have robust immunity response. So he was not protected even at the 5-week mark. The good news though, is that about week 8 or 9, you can see just on the first one here. So we're looking at receptor binding domain, we're looking at spike 1 protein and nucleocapsid. Those are the areas, but you can see it went from 13,000 to over 100,000 in terms of the IgG for receptor binding domain. That's a pretty big jump in about 4 weeks. So, but my point here is everybody's really individualistic about their response. Some can respond a robust immune response to the vaccine within 2 weeks. Others, it could take a lot longer. Now, if they're immunocompromised, if they're on immunosuppressants, those are other conditions where they can take quite a bit longer to develop that level where we'd like to see them at. Now, in some cases, you have no response at all to the vaccine. So What we're able to do with AditxtScore, and this is a good example, is really provide this objective data to really supplement the protocol and help mitigate risk, help lower and reduce risk as much as possible. You'll see down here on the nucleocapsid that wasn't detected. This is really because the Moderna vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, they don't code for that. But now if it's someone who was naturally infected by SARS-CoV-2, we would likely see the nucleocapsid as well. And as I was sharing with Doug, it's interesting, a lot of the discussion just over the last couple of days is, you know, if someone's been infected recently with COVID, should they get the vaccine right away? Well, some of the top immunologists are saying that that could carry additional risk. So it's interesting to think about AditxScore in that context, that we could potentially utilize AditxScore before the vaccine to glean some information. If an individual has still robust immune response, this very comprehensive view of their immune parameters here, then they may hold off on that a bit, right? So it just empowers the individual with more information that they can in turn use to make their own decisions about their health. Okay, so this is the proprietary report. The other antibody we really think it adds a lot to this is neutralizing antibody. So we do measure for neutralizing antibody. So this is 10 analytes in one report. But you can see in this case here at week 5, he was at 19. That's under 20. That's not where you want to be, right? We want to be much higher. And now at week 9, he was at 85. We did, one of our colleagues, Dr. Drew, many of you might know him, he went on, I think it was Fox Business News with Stuart Varney. We measured him at 100 neutralizing antibodies. So these are the antibodies, of course, that help protect the cell by you know, preventing the virus from entering into the cell. So it's great to have a robust number of neutralizing antibodies as well. And then, so this is really a personalized report. It breaks down into more detail. A lot of individuals, you know, find this very helpful. And then it gives some general advice as well, you know, what to do. So that's our report. We're proud of it. Millions of dollars have been poured into this algorithm and many years in the making. This is also applicable to many other things like gut health and cardiometabolic, and it's really a terrific algorithm that can even help point providers to certain diagnoses and really helps them sharpen the saw too. So that's the report, and I'll just stop sharing now. So, yeah.
So Anthony, in terms of targeting where you see this being effective, first of all, we talked about doing it as post-infection, somebody who's been infected with COVID, to get a read on whether or not they actually have developed the antibodies that form naturally when your body fights off the illness.
Yes.
The second being pre and post vaccination, potentially, to determine those parameters. But also you see this as something people would repeat test to just get a continual diagnosis of where they sit in terms of these antibodies and where they are in their system.
Yeah, I'll give you a great example, Doug. That's a great question. So, for example, there are some of those individuals who want to test monthly, right? So I mentioned Dr. Drew. He's one of the, so he had COVID-19. We actually did his AditxScore in December before he had COVID, and we knew that he had a weak level of antibodies, which put him at risk. And lo and behold, he ended up getting COVID a couple weeks later before he could get the vaccine. Now, he had a tough go at it, and you know, he's on a lot of podcasts sharing this, a lot of challenges, and he's considered a long hauler now, but he monitors his AditxScore monthly, and he's looking very closely. He had a really exuberant response to COVID in terms of antibodies. So he's doing really well. At some point, those antibodies go away. He may decide to get a vaccine, but this gives him that tool to determine where he's at. And that's what's so powerful. Now, he doesn't want to take the vaccine unless he feels he has to, so because he had such a bad go of it. He had cognitive challenges and things like that are common with the long haulers and the effects of COVID. Now, what's interesting, as I mentioned, I alluded to this in the beginning, we'll be the first company to launch cellular immunity, which is very exciting. It's been in research for many years. It'll continue to be in there in many cases. The gold standard is called ELISpot. And we've been compared against that. So we are in the validation process and about to launch cellular immunity. So we'll be looking at memory B cells, T cells, as well as cytokines. And what's important there is, antibodies are designed to go away at some point. That's important. They'll diminish. But one of the things that remains is the memory B cells. And so to be able to quantify the memory B cells and to learn more about long-term immunity is absolutely key. And that'll give us information. What's the durability of my immunity? And I think that's a very important component in this mix that we'll look at, and people like Dr. Drew will look at to help them make decisions as well.
Anthony, we've had a couple of questions. One is timing in terms of how quickly is the immune report given back to the patient. Maybe I'll start by just explaining what we will be doing at collection sites, and then you can certainly add what takes place at the AditxtScore side. We already have the complete staff that can implement this testing on site at collection sites. We have our phlebotomists that will be able to take a blood sample. That blood sample will then be sent. It can be stored at room temperature, shipped under normal shipping conditions with the appropriate biohazard material or bag, et cetera, to your facility in Richmond. And then I'll let you kind of talk about the processing times, et cetera.
Yes. And then, so you're right. It's a very simple process there. We'll just send the blood to us, the samples to us. We will process that blood and we'll return the report within 48 hours. So that's as simple as it is. You can send this blood. It doesn't require ice. It doesn't require being spun. We take care of that when it gets to the center. And then we just have a fantastic team that will process these results promptly and get it back to the consumer. In this case, we'll send it back to either a medical provider or a group that we're working with you, Doug. And we do that with our channel partners, whether they're labs or hospitals or work sites. Employee health is a very big venue for us. Pro sports, college sports, back to work, back to cruising. All of these are areas of great importance because these are organizations that are doing everything they can, taking every measure they can to reduce risk, to help get the fans back in the stadium, those kind of things. So we feel we have another tool that we're offering in their toolkit to help, promote that return to getting back to normal anyway, as much as possible.
Another question we've had, Anthony, is there anything that impacts the result, diabetes or anything along that line that would have an impact on the result the patient would get?
Yeah, in terms of the COVID-19, I alluded to that a little bit, that what we're finding, and Dr. Sharuk and our team, with all of the data that we're looking at, there are those that may be immune compromised, they may be on different therapies that actually cause a delayed response, and in some cases don't enable the individual to mount a response at all. So there are those cases, and Dr. Sharuk had mentioned one case where like someone was on methotrexate, for example. Once they were taken off of that briefly, they were able to mount an immune response. So these are just little examples. There's other things like comorbidities and maybe age that has a factor into how long it takes someone to mount that immune response. Someone may have an autoimmune condition where they're already in another battle, their antibodies are another battle, so it may take longer. But the good news overall is we are seeing people respond very well to either the vaccine or even to COVID, really a system that it often, initiates a pretty robust response. So these are the things that we're able to measure and quantify over time. Great.
Well, as I've said to you, I will be one of the first in line to determine whether or not my vaccination has been as effective as I hope it has been. So, it's a wonderful opportunity. It's extremely well suited for what we already had in place in our infrastructure with collection sites. So it's an expansion of our offering. I think it's an important test that will be not only something people want to have done once, but want to have done a number of times. And we're well suited to be able to position ourselves with you to deliver that to our patient populations.
Fantastic.
Great. Anthony, thank you very much for that. The last subject I had, and we've had a lot of questions on this, and I wanted to address it, was the share price. Management is very aware of some negative pressures on our share price through some shorting that has been taking place in the market. In our investigations, we have not seen anything that we would call nefarious beyond sort of market behavior that takes place. We do strongly believe that our stock is undervalued. We believe it's primed for growth with a consolidation of a new base and the flushing out of some weaker hands. We really believe that our awareness campaign has generated volume. We would like to have seen it had a better impact on the stock price, but it certainly has generated increased volume. We believe the best way to drive our share price and our growth is to focus on execution of the initiatives we just talked about, is to effectively begin to pivot to the telediagnostic area, adding important initiatives like Aditxt, doing what we're doing around a number of our initiatives will begin to add that value to our shareholder. We think the best way to fight back on anyone trying to put a negative pressure on the stock is to expedite our growth, pivot successfully beyond COVID, broaden our offering, and also to really become positioned for a huge growth in telehealth and telemedicine, telediagnostics that we think we're well suited for. And we'd certainly want to take advantage of that growth I talked about, $61 billion market moving to $560 billion in the next number of years. So it's positioned for growth. We think we're well positioned to be part of that. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for participating. And if there's any questions we haven't answered at this point in time, we'll try to answer them back. And I want to thank Anthony. We're excited about Aditxt. We think it's a very nice supplement to what we're already doing. And I think there will be a tremendous amount of interest in people understanding what their immune response has been. I often say, if I'm willing to pay the money I paid to find out who my ancestors are, I think I'll be willing to pay a lot of money to find out what my immune response to either my previous COVID case or my vaccination has been. So we do believe there'll be tremendous demand for this, and we can work together well with our network and your proprietary technology.
Looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you everyone for participating, and we'll keep you updated. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.